Hello everyone, it's John Cope again, and welcome back to the CRT channel. Today we're going to do a video on a valve body that I designed. This valve body is a 3-speed TorqueFlite valve body. It works in 727s and 904s. It's a trans brake, it's reverse manual, and the trans brake works in first and second gear. So stick around and I'll show you the assembly and we'll talk about the valve body. This is how I do my valve body assembly. And right here is first all the parts that we use to do the assembly, all the plates and screws. Then the valves that I use are all here in their own little bin. And on this first and second gear brake launch, we got what I call the upper part of the valve body that's already been machined for this particular style brake. The separator plate that is done on a water jet machine and then anodized red. Our billet lower half for a TorqueFlite. And you can see here is a Tesla valve. Really not too useful in a full-blown race car application, but we just go ahead and we put the Tesla valve in every single of our billet valve bodies. Here you'll see this is the trans brake body that holds the solenoid and the trans brake valve, and this is the trans brake valve return spring. Then you have the spring and ball for the rooster comb, and these valves right here are just jam valves. That means they go in the valve body to make sure a passage is cut off, and it just jams up in here. They don't move in and out. They're just there to keep oil coming from this passage into that passage or anywhere else throughout the valve body. Then we have our manual valve, our pressure regulator valve, the pressure regulator spring, the adjuster. This is the converter charge valve, which we do modifications to it, and what we do is we limit the amount of oil that goes into the converter to prevent ballooning. Some of the brackets and the screws, then the plates that will go outside the valve body. A linkage seal for the shaft and an E-clip. And then this is a tool that we use to put the spring and ball in for the rooster comb. This is the rooster comb. And this style was made from 1966 to 1970, and then they changed it to this, and they changed it in 70, I believe. This is the kind you use the 3-prong neutral switch, and it has reverse lights on it. This kind just has neutral and park to activate the neutral park switch with no reverse lights. And since most trans brakes do not need a reverse lights, I like using this on trans brakes, just because these rooster combs seem like they're kind of hard to get. So there's all the parts and pieces for this first and second gear launch trans brake. I'll go ahead and put the camera in the tripod and I will put it together, and as I'm doing the assembly on this, I'll talk more about the features of what I'm assembling. Okay, you can see these these parts real good. I'm going to start with what I call, we'll bring this just a little bit closer. We're going to start with what I call the upper half of the valve body. As it would be in the car, this is what I call the upper half, and then I call this part the lower half. So let's go ahead and get this together. I'm going to switch to my Mr. Magoo glasses. All right. Let's get her done. Like I told you earlier, these valves that I just put in are to prevent oil that will be in this passage, so let's say for third gear, preventing it to go through these other passages. Same with the valve that I put on this side. That's going to block off, see the valve in here? That's going to block off oil that will be in this passage from going out to that passage anytime the transmission's in first, second, or third gear. So this will always be charged, and we will block that off. We'll put this one on too. I'm not going to get into exactly what it does. I just want to give you guys an idea. I don't want to give out too much of my information in case someone's out there that wants to copy what I'm doing, but I do want to show my customers and people that may want to buy one of these valve bodies that each one of these are hand built by me personally. I make sure the buck stops with me to make sure all the machine work is done correctly. The assembly process is done. It's got the right amount of spring pressure and everything. That's why I put all these valve bodies together. Now, I've had Lucas build a few valve bodies for me, and he's getting really good at it, but I still inspect every one. After he's done with the valve body, I go through everything to make sure not only is all the machine work done. There's no defects in the part that we started with, and that everything is assembled correctly and the pressures are done. So now that the jam valves are in, these valves that we put in there don't serve no function as far as how the valve body works. It just prevents oil from going from places that they don't need to be going. So now we'll put the pressure regulator valve in. There's two parts of that. Where are all my Torx bits? My Torx screws. So there's the 1/2 of the pressure regulator. We're going to put the top half in, along with my pressure regulator spring. This is the converter charge valve, which does not even move in this valve body. The adjuster. And then the bracket that holds them both in. Trying to hold this and keep it in camera, in the camera view at the same time. So we have in our converter charge valve and spring, and our pressure regulator valve and spring right here. All right, let's get the manual valve in. This manual valve is just the regular shift pattern. It is not a clean neutral. So this shift pattern will be, see if you can see that. Park, neutral, neutral, 1, 2, 3. And then you press the button in the back of the car up. You see, this is, I put the shift pattern on the valve bodies, along with our name, website, and telephone number. That way, if you need to get a hold of me, it's all right there. We also, for every customer that buys our valve body, let's see where I can put this so you can see it. We'll put your name on it too. It'll say custom built for John Smith or whatever your name is on there for you. Or if you got a name of your race car, you got a particular name for it, we'll put your race car name on there for you and no charge. So let's go ahead and put the manual valve in. And this is where that tool comes into play. This is a little tool that's going to hold the spring and ball in so we can put the rooster comb in. These tools come in the Transco kits. So if you ever get a Transco kit, definitely keep that tool. It works and it comes in handy. See how it just holds the ball in under the spring pressure and someone's calling the shop on a Saturday. I make sure that the rooster comb is lined up in the ball and the manual valve at the same time. And the tool just comes out like so. I put in a new seal. Then a washer that holds in the seal. And then I have these really nice, super thick, strong E-clips that I use to hold that all together. I normally use pliers for that, but they're out in the shop. So, and then I test to make sure that the rooster comb, of course, clicks in all the gears. And it stops at the correct locations. That's park, neutral, neutral, first gear, second gear, third gear. Then I look inside to make sure that the manual valve goes inside. I make sure that the manual valve is in the correct position for each passage for first gear, second gear, third gear, neutral, and reverse, and the trans brake. So this part is done. I always put the ball in there so I don't forget it. That's the third gear and reverse ball. All the other balls that you normally see in a shift kitted is not needed. There's only going to be one check ball in there. So I'm going to take this and put it off to the side. And then there's really not much assembly for the lower half. We have the valve body, which is the first gear and second gear launch for a 3-speed, so either a 727 or a 904. I did not put the serial number or the date on it because I'm just building this valve body for the purposes of this video, and when I sell it to a customer, then I will date it and put in a serial number on it addressed to that customer. This is where the solenoid body is going to go. This little hole here, if you're wondering what that's there for, it's clearance for the solenoid to fit in there, like so. You'll see how it goes when we put it together. So I'm going to take the valve body. It's just a little crooked. And we're going to put the separator plate on it. I also use these tools from Transco, the shift kitted tools, as lineup pins to line the separator plate up for me, because the separator plate has to be centered, and my two lineup holes are here and here. Take those out. We're going to take our upper half, which the check ball's in there, and I'm going to give it just one glance to make sure that all the machine work is correct. And we're going to put the two halves together. I always like using Torx on all these. And I gotta loosen this up a little bit. a long one goes in here. Whoop. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten up all the ones that hold the valve body, and I need one more little guy. That goes right here. Whoop. So now that's together. So what I'm going to do is we're going to assemble the trans brake body and valve. I put the spring in first. Is there a spring in there already? There we go. Then the valve. And our solenoid, which is a trans brake. It's a solenoid off of a Power Glide. Or they work for Power Glides and they work for my TorqueFlite valve bodies. And this is the wrench I use to tighten it. And you can see how this works. As you energize the solenoid pushes the valve. We'll go ahead and ground one wire. This wire will be the positive, 12 volts. We'll go ahead and test it now to make sure the solenoid is good and to make sure the connections I just did are good. This is a very fast trans brake. I believe it's the fastest one in the market when it comes to TorqueFlites. One of the reasons why, when I designed this valve body, I put the solenoid. There's two reasons why I put the solenoid at the bottom of the valve body. So when you drop the pan, this is what you're going to see. The first reason was probably the most important. The solenoid valve itself that does the switching from trans brake to release is really close. Right underneath here is the check ball, and when the check ball moves over, it goes up into the case. And by moving the solenoid as close as you can to the check ball, it shortens the path of length of fluid that needs to fill a void in order for the brake to work. So by making that void shorter, you're naturally going to make it quicker. It has less to fill, it had less fluid to move. And then the second thing is, my solenoid is, the way it's designed, is the only TorqueFlite trans brake valve body where it allows you to replace the solenoid itself while the valve body is still in the car. There are other manufacturers that put their solenoids on the top side of the valve body, which requires removal of the valve body to change the solenoid. So by us having it on the bottom, you would just remove the 4 screws, pull this piece off, unscrew the solenoid, and screw your new solenoid on. Something you can do at the track very easily if you know, you had a brand X valve body, you'd have to pull the valve body out of the vehicle in order to replace a damaged solenoid. So I think that's some pretty good benefits that this valve body design has, as far as how quick it is, how easy it is to be serviced. We all know, I've been to races where, you know, you're a few states away and you're at a 3-day race, and something as simple as a solenoid failure could keep you out of that race. I've always had guys come up to me and say, hey, you got a solenoid for X or Y, and I'm like, no, I don't. This solenoid also, not only is it easy to replace, it's easy to get. Every other manufacturer that makes a trans brake valve body for TorqueFlite, their solenoid is unique to their valve body, and they manufacture that solenoid. So if you have one of their valve bodies and you have a solenoid failure, you're at the mercy of going back to that manufacturer to get yourself a solenoid to get you back down the track. If you have one of my valve bodies and, you know, one of the solenoids did fail, it's a Powerglide solenoid. You can pretty much go to any speed shop or even look through the pits. There's always Powerglide solenoids laying around. That being said, this valve body, once it gets lettered, it'll be like 540 something. In all the valve bodies, the billet valve bodies I've had, I've only had to sell a customer one solenoid because he says it wasn't working all the time. And then once he put that solenoid in, he found out he had a bad ground, and it wasn't the solenoid. So year to date, when I posted this video and made this valve body, I have an over 500 trans brakes. I've never had a solenoid fail. So these are the same solenoids I use for my dump system, and these are the same solenoids I use for my 4-speed 48RE lockup style pro race trans brake valve body. So these are very, very reliable solenoids. Even though you let's say 20 years down the line, if you have this valve body, these solenoids will still be readily available. You do not have to come to me to buy one if one ever failed. So you're not at the mercy of going back to that manufacturer. So that makes the valve body, you know, there's a lot of great points about this valve body, and that solenoid design be one of them. This is a first and second gear launch. It's clearly listed on the valve body. I am the one who does all the assembly on these valve bodies, and I take great care in making sure that each one of these is done correctly. So when you get the product, you have no concerns or issues with it. We also make valve bodies in clean neutral. So clean neutral is when you shift it past third gear, when you're going through the finish line and the transmission will go in neutral. You can get any one of my valve bodies for 3-speed valve bodies for 727 and 904 with the clean neutral. We also, and it's a real big part of our business, we make 4-speed valve bodies for the transmission of 46, 47, and 48 RHs and REs. And those valve bodies, you can get in reverse manual, you can get in trans brake. They all have the Tesla valve, and you can get them in lockup or non-lockup. All right, so there's our first and second gear launch valve body. I hope you like the video. If you can, and you would, give us a like, subscribe. That really would help the channel grow. And thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Mopar to ya.